Hello everybody, welcome to the Northern Film Review. This week we've got a special show for you. We've got Cameron here on the show. We are doing Straw Dogs, wonderful little film, wonderful little cult film. And yeah, hopefully you enjoy. The Northern Film Review with your hosts, Oliver Ellis and Luke Simpson. So yes, hello everyone. How are we?
Ciao. I'm doing good.
You're doing good?
Doing very well.
Yeah.
Nice.
Excited. I saw it on the board. There's LSR has this big board that has all the radio shows on it. The one that said the Northern Film Review, go, that sounds interesting.
We're on the board, and I'm happy we're on the board because not many other shows on the board.
Yeah. Well, it was actually quite funny how we met. Actually, it was like when we recorded last week for Raw. I got there a bit too early, and we started chatting because you're part of the sports.
Yeah, I was on the sports show, and we were both wearing Leeds United tops at the time, so it was really obvious that we had this sort of
chemistry.
We had a connection already. Yeah.
So that was how we met, and then eventually just somehow the conversation got to film. You recommended Mindhunter, which is brilliant. If you haven't seen it, I love it. But it was good convo, and I hope it continues now.
Yeah, you met because Leeds United, and you're from Leeds, aren't you?
I am from Leeds, yeah. Big up Leeds.
Big up Leeds.
And I kind of thought, maybe we could do like a Leeds film. That would be fun.
Leeds, yeah. Well, there's Damned United.
Damn United, yeah. But I'm a big fan of Brian Clough, and I'm a big fan of Don Revie. Somewhat contradictory.
Yeah.
As a contradiction, but I didn't rate the Damn United. I didn't like it. I don't think they got Clough. I don't think anyone will be able to get Clough. There's something about him that you just...
Yeah.
There's like... I don't know. There's something special about his character.
Yeah.
And you can really only get him via either listening to stories about him, like one of his goalkeepers, Mark Crosley, has done loads of podcasts about him, they're brilliant, or watching actual interviews with him in. I think
my favourite interview with him is definitely the one with the Billy Bremner.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And they had him on World of Sport with Revie, and they just, for like half an hour, I remember, because it was part of a documentary, and the producer said, we had no scripting for half an hour and just let them fight.
Yeah.
They kept ripping each other. It was brilliant.
Yeah, so, and I thought about that, and we could do that. But you chose, this is kind of like film Desert Island Discs. I said this, Luke, before the show. It's like kind of the B-Tech version of it, but it's very much that. So you chose Straw Dogs.
Yeah, it was. I wanted to pick like a really film fan's film.
A filmy film, yeah.
It's a very filmy film, and I just finished watching it because I actually can't remember why I watched it. It was probably on my letterbox, and because I'm a big fan of, I really like Dustin Hoffman's sort of mid-career stuff.
Yeah.
And I've watched it, and I thought, if I was ever on a podcast, or I was ever asked by someone who's really into film, what is a good film, I would have said Straw Dogs.
Yeah.
And,
okay, cool. And it's sort of, it's a very old, well, it's not a very old film. It's
1971.
1971.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sort of, it's quite an exciting film. I mean, Luke,
yes.
What was your first impression?
So my first impression of it, I watched it this morning for a refresher, and I messaged you halfway through it. I was like, "What the hell have you got me watching?"
It's so weird.
It's one of them films you need to take a break from. A bit like Raw. It's very dark. It's very dramatic. It's
so 70s.
It's so 70s, and it's tough to watch.
Yeah,
there's some
100%.
scenes. There's a very notorious scene, and you'll probably remember this. I'll say trigger warning. There's an R-word scene, and it was 5 minutes of just horrificness, and it was not very pleasant.
No music.
No music.
It
was just her screams, her fighting back. It was. Oh,
beautiful acting.
Great acting, brilliant acting. But set in Cornwall as well, so it's all set in England, and but the guy's American, so they met in America, and they come back to, I think it was her home village.
Yeah, it's her home village in Cornwall, I think. And the idea, pretty much the synopsis is that this American sort of intellectual moves home with his wife, moves back to her hometown. And the real crux of it is the conflict between him and his wife's ex-boyfriend and her sort of friend and his friends in the sort of local community and his interaction with the local community. There are two ways to look at it, really. There are the people who think Straw Dogs is like a toxic masculinity film.
Yeah, I read about that.
Sam Peckinpah he's a toxic male, and that's it. Is that it's about the sort of transformation, the transfiguration of this guy from a weak intellectual to like a violent alpha or something.
Yeah.
And the other view is that it's if you were to take the title Straw Dogs, the idea that humanity itself is just like a paper dog. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
That it's really about the fragility of civilization, or about the fragility of humanity, that it can be ripped away so quickly. But we'll get into it.
There was this quote I read, or I heard someone say it. It was by Pauline Kael, and this is the first American film that is a misogynistic work of art. It's
It's a nice way of putting it.
It is. Well, I mean, it's controversial because the BBFI banned it from being in the UK until 2002. So it's 1971 to 2002.
Do you think it was a just ban?
No. I don't think any film should. I mean, for me, it's just a general thing about film. I don't think you can ban it unless it's like snuff or whatever. I don't think it makes sense to ban film. But especially in this case, I think if you were to take it just off the synopsis, you'd say, well, yeah, it's a horrible, misogynistic piece of violent sort of
Well, it's back in
glorification.
Back in the 70s, though, they were very taboo about that subject, and I think that's hence why it was banned, because back in the 70s they really don't like the violence on movies, TV, and stuff like that. What somebody think of the children?
Yes, somebody think of the children. So, like you were saying before, it's kind of got like two halves of how people interpret it.
Yeah.
What is the sort of like? How would you interpret it? Sort of the misogynistic side, or the sort of the other side of it?
I think a great way to sort of compare it is to compare it to a film like Taxi Driver.
Okay, yeah.
Is that there are people who watch Taxi Driver and just completely misunderstand it and think Travis Bickle's so cool. Travis Bickle kills everyone.
Yeah.
Whereas that's a really reductive way to look at it. Is to just look at that's the problem with always backing the protagonist. If you always support what the protagonist does, that's what'll happen. But the thing about Straw Dogs is there's so much subtext to it, and there's so many little hints that, so he's becoming more of a man, so he's just shot someone's face off. But is that good? There is so many little hints. There's so many pretty obvious hints as well. The breaking of the glasses.
Yeah.
The breaking of the glasses is the biggest one.
His vision is broken.
His vision's broken. His world view has crumbled in front of him.
Yeah.
And also, if we take it from quite a Pol Pot view, glasses represent intellect, represent society, or what the need for glasses, reading. It's all this kind of. The minute they break, it goes back to this sort of primal nature.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's a male power fantasy. I think it's something a lot deeper than that.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, there's lots of problems within sort of like Hollywood of the power male sort of fantasy sort of thing. So would you say it's more like it's the deeper meaning of it, and it's sort of like all that sort of thing. So do you think like there's lots of scenes in it that sort of, because it was banned and it's sort of like got this sort of like male, I don't know what I'm saying here, toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any scenes in it that I think go over the top or were a bit sort of like too much?
I think that's the point, to be honest. I think the film,
that's the point? Yeah.
If we talk about, if we look at the time period that it was made, I'd say it's a really good response to the sort of the badass 60s of people like John Wayne riding up on a horse and shooting 12 people, and you're meant to go in the cinema and clap. It's really a response to that kind of needless violence and saying, well, why don't we actually look at that and realise that are they good people for doing that?
Or in a sense, do it to a normal person instead of a badass cowboy.
Yeah, exactly. You're bringing it home.
Yeah.
You're bringing it to a really domestic role. I mean, the opening shots, it's a beautiful. You go on your holidays there in a little caravan. It looks like a lovely place. It's really, and that's why I think it works best for a British audience specifically, because it's the domestication of violence that we need to really like. That's weird, because that looks like a street I used to walk down when I was a kid, and someone's being shot in it.
And it's also that to be with like, guns aren't really common in England. apart from in the countryside
Yeah.
where it's set, like shotguns and stuff like that. We're not akin to gun violence.
Yeah. And well, I see. Maybe that's the reason why they said it in a. That's probably that's almost definitely the reason why they said it in a sort of countryside, and the idyllic nature of the countryside makes us think that this is a peaceful place, and then bam, we get hit with all the terrible stuff. And it's not as if we get knocked in the face instantly. It's very, like I say, it's very similar to Taxi Driver. Taxi Driver is the boiling of the pot, and then the last 15 minutes is it flowing over.
Yeah.
It's very similar, is that we see the tensions between Charlie Venner, I think is the name of the main sort of leader of the gang, who used to go out with the main character, Dustin Hoffman's wife. Amy, yeah. And so it's really about 90% of it is just him and his sort of gaggle of weirdly inbred sort of freaks messing with Dustin Hoffman and Amy.
Because it started off when they're fixing the roof or something like that.
Yeah, he paid them to fix the roof.
Paid them to fix the roof because it had a massive hole in it. And then from that, like, the ex-boyfriend started following Amy around, slapping her and just trying and get back into her life, in a sense.
It's really... It's sort of just questioning his masculinity.
Yeah.
I think that's the point of sort of the first half of the film, and then there is I think the R word scene is really the break.
Yeah.
I think it's a film of two halves. The R word scene is the break, and then from then on, even though Justin Hoffman's character doesn't discover that until later, from that point we see him mentally breaking and sort of going on this downward trajectory towards the climax of the end. But the people who the sort of gaggle of Charlie Venner and his friends and his posse, if we were going to take it to a cowboy, like we said, like John Wayne, his sort of posse, just they make his skin crawl. They just like, because they're beautifully written characters and beautifully performed characters, but there is a special way about how they perform it. And about Sam Peckinpah's cinematography, by the way. So the cinematography in that's brilliant.
Really nice.
The way they do it to just the most disgusting people I think I've seen on film. Some of the worst people I've seen on film, just terrible.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, you kind of you said, I don't know whether we touched on this, but you said it's very much like what I described it as, like a filmy film.
Yeah.
And like this sort of a film you'd recommend to people who are really into films. So like I have this sort of criteria in my head of like films that I would recommend to other people who like they like films. So like people like me and Luke and you, sort of like we understand it, and like the normies, the punters, the mops, sort of the people. What's the sort of like the criteria in your mind to recommend this sort of like film to someone?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say I think cinematography has a great thing to do with it, like double exposure shots and stuff like that. Yeah, stuff where you just go, oh, that's great. That's why I think film nerds like Wes Anderson so much, because they go, oh, that's great. That you don't.
It's the movement of the camera, especially Wes Anderson films, that everyone goes, oh, like
that's fantastic.
It's
that
amazing.
Subtle character sort of little hints that you see in characters' eyes. Like, that's present in Straw Dogs. You'll just see Charlie Venner's eyes go like that towards Amy, and then you'll see that they do like a reverse cut back, or a shot reverse shot, and you just that's great. That. But I think those are the two. I think subtlety is a thing, because you can watch a film like The Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not slating The Wolf of Wall Street. I think it's misunderstood, but Wolf of Wall Street is shot in a very unsubtle way. It's shot in, look at this is mental.
In your face.
Yeah, it's in your face. There's not those sort of moments of silence. And I'm not saying that a film has to be sort of have moments of silence, but it certainly, most of the films that I'd recommend for filmy films often have moments of silence in them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That are just, like Kurosawa. Kurosawa's he's brilliant in Yojimbo especially. There are just those moments where you go, oh, I like that. Yeah. And then you get two or 3 seconds of silence and you think, there's so much being said in that
In a sense, less is more.
Definitely less is more. That's good. That's another thing, working with sort of scarcity. That's why, that's what I don't like about big films, like Marvel films. They have so many characters that they have to throw in all at once, but a lot of the best films, in my opinion, are films about 2 people or 3 people. in a room.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's
in a podcast room.
I was gonna come on to that sort of. We did a whole podcast about how much I hated Marvel films, and that sort of thing. Do you find yourself like watching more of these sort of like artsy, like filmy films? Now you sort of like getting into films, and maybe as you get older, or you just find yourself like as that's the split. Because I often find myself like now that I do like a film degree, I'm watching so much more of like filmy films
indie
and like
well.
indie films and sort of like really grotesque films like Raw, like we did last week, and stuff like that. So is that like a common trend you're finding?
That I'm sort of going towards more like films where my mate will open the door and he say, "What you watching?" and I'll say some weird Italian title and we'll go, "What is that?" and then close the door. It definitely. But for me, I think everyone has their sort of gateway director. That you watch them and you go, yeah. For me, it was Scorsese. I watched Goodfellas is still my number one film of all time.
Yeah.
Because there was people who there are people who watch Goodfellas and go, oh, you get shot in the face. That's brilliant. But I think it just does everything brilliantly. And then from there, I worked my way back. So I went from Goodfellas to what was it?
Casino?
Even though Casino was Casino after? I think so. Casino was after, but then went Casino to Raging Bull, and then I finished with Mean Streets. Mean Streets is like and I obviously had the Taxi Driver as well. Yeah. But
Cape Fear is a really good.
Cape Fear is a brilliant film. Cape Fear is De Niro. People say that De Niro doesn't have depth, but I think Cape Fear is really sort of depthy because De Niro a lot of the time plays like the voice of reason, like he's like the sort of. He knows what's like in Heat. He plays a bank robber, but he's the mastermind. And in Goodfellas, he plays the Irishman who always has stuff in place. But Cape Fear, the director just said, "Go mental. We want you to go as mental as possible," and he hit it off the mark. But yeah, Scorsese, and then from Scorsese, I looked at his influences. So I then went to people like Kurosawa. Kurosawa's a big influence on Scorsese, and then just worked my way from there. But also the stuff that got me into these really filmy films. Obviously, they're like people like Kurosawa. They're really good films, but they're not like the indie sort of weird stuff. For me, it was La Haine or The Hate. The Hate. Yeah.
French one,
That's what because someone said, "Oh, have you heard of this film that's free on YouTube?" I'm like, "What?" I watched it, and that was like, yeah. Now I can watch films with subtitles.
Yeah, La Haine's amazing. I'm really into sort of French cinema and sort of Celine Sciamma and stuff like that. I think it's what I find interesting about Scorsese is, have you ever seen like any of his short films?
Yeah.
And like The Big Shave. It's such an experimental little short film, and it's sort of his documentary Italian American. And
that was brilliant. I love that.
And stuff like that. It's sort of quite interesting to see his sort of progression as sort of a filmmaker. And that brings me on to the next thing. You mentioned Letterboxd.
Oh yes, I did mention it. I've got my Letterboxd too.
We've never really. This is like I've seen people use Letterboxd before, but I don't really know what it is.
We haven't really discussed about it on the podcast.
No, I sort of I don't really understand.
I always get it on my Instagram. Because we're always on because in a film course, I follow those people on it, and it's like literally every other day they've got a new film that they put.
Yeah, everyone else uses it. I don't use it.
I've never used it.
I'm not entirely sure,
but I might get into it. It's I think is it an app that you just put? You say you rate film.
Oh no! What is my phone doing? The Letterboxd app was like
bored?
Patreon.
Is it like an app?
It's Instagram for films, pretty much. So every time I watch a film, I'll go onto Letterboxd, and it's out of 5, and you rate it by 5, and loads of people some people you see some just absolute nerds who write like 3 paragraphs, and nobody is ever going to read it. But I really do it. There's a lot of stuff like you can follow other people on it, so I follow people who do podcasts, really, not necessarily about film, just in general, because they've got quite good taste. And Commode, all the Commode's film reviews get put onto there. So every time Commode's new thing comes up, I'll look at the film, look at the reviews, and then watch his little video, because he puts out these little videos. But I really like it, especially if I've forgotten how I feel about a film.
Yeah. So do you do it to remind yourself, or do you do it in a sense whilst watching it just so you can?
It's kind of like a journal, isn't it?
It is a journal,
do you do it throughout the film, or do you do it at the end of the film? Like, do you in the heat of the moment, do you put something down, or is it just like, or at the end, I do this so I can remember.
I'll remember that I watched it as well. So if someone says, "Have you ever seen X?" and I'll type my search and go, "Oh, I have seen that. I saw that last year or whatever." Yeah. And normally it's just to remember like little bullet points. Like I've got I'll have bullet points for one of these. The Last Duel that I saw. That's the new film by Ridley Scott with Matt Damon and oh my god, Adam Driver.
Yeah.
Adam Driver and Jodie Comer. And I've given it, this is just the most recent one I did, 3.5 stars. Jodie Comer is the best part. That was like just reminding myself, like this is No Time to Die. Rami Malek deserved more time. Because I think he did deserve more time. 100%.
I really hated No Time to Die.
You hate it?
I didn't hate it, but
We had a podcast about it.
I didn't
was
like
like,
it.
I was the voice of reason. I loved it.
I wrote a
I
review for
loved
it
it.
on the Griffin as well. And basically stating it as sort of like, oh, it's a bit naff. I mean, I can understand why people like it, but
It's not a filmy film.
No, it's not a filmy
100%,
film.
It's a have you seen how sick that new film? It's that kind of film.
Explosions.
Yeah.
It was so much better than what was the last one they did before that? Spectre.
That
was even at the time. I must have been, what was it, 6 years ago, wasn't it?
I was in high school. I think it was year 10.
Yeah, I was.
Something like that.
I would have been. I was 12 years old. That Jesus Christ. So I must have watched it, and I walked out. I said that was terrible. I said I can't. I really didn't like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. James Bond's one of those things that everyone's gonna watch, and it doesn't really have to be that good. It just has to have a lot. I think 90% of the time they're worrying about stunts. What are the best stunts that they can put?
I think the main thing I would say for Spectre, like the only thing that was recognisable from it was the explosion at the end when they blew up the compound.
Yeah.
It was the world record for the largest on-set explosion.
Oh, that's brilliant. It's brilliant.
So that's like the best part of it, and that's why everyone watched it, to watch that explosion. It's like how everyone watched the latest Mission Impossible because, that's where Tom Cruise broke his ankle.
Yeah. Obviously, when he's off the side of the plane, that's actually him and stuff like that. But I feel like if you're like a stunt guy, or if you're really into, because I know there are some people that I've spoken to that just watch films for stunts.
Yeah,
that's their big thing is that they, look at, do you know how long that took to make and stuff?
Do you watch Corridor Digital at all?
Oh, they're brilliant.
Yeah, so do you watch their stuntmen react and visual effects?
Yeah.
Their stuntmen react. They're great because they watch. So the stuntmen watch it for the stunt films for the stunts.
The stunts.
Yeah, because they do stunts itself, but they explain. Do you watch that?
It's such a good insight.
Corridor Digital. I don't know.
Honestly, it's a really good insight.
I watch those like film explainers that are like an hour long. And they talk about Marxism.
I do watch
those video essays have gone a bit too far. No,
I do like some of them, like behind the screenplay and stuff like that. Or
stuff
like that. They're really good, and it's like only a 15-minute thing. I don't like watching an hour's worth of.
Some of them are longer than the film.
Yeah.
And you think,
yeah,
I could have just watched the film in the time.
Watch the film instead.
Yeah.
They go into detail on every little his fingernails. Oh my god, fingernails. It's like,
there are some. I know there are some people like they do it for people who review like games or books or whatever.
Yeah.
They'll do it, and I'll realise 15 minutes in, you're just describing the film to me.
Yeah.
You're not giving me any analysis. You're just telling me the plot and then going, what do you think about that? Do you not think it's weird how he does that? That's it. You're just describing the film to me. Like, and video essays, some of them are way too stylized, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I kind of like that though. I kind of like the idea that I'm sort of watching something. It's basically a podcast, really. It's a very well produced podcast that I'm listening to whilst I do my dishes, and I quite like the sort of like just them just talking about nonsense, really. I think.
it's like while you're doing dishes, they're just talking about. They're just doing a plot by step thing of the film.
Yeah.
So instead of watching the film, you like you said, just watch the film whilst doing dishes. Then.
And this is the anti-capitalist approach to this.
To be fair, there have been some films where I watch the end and I'm like, I need to watch something on that.
I'll tell you what, if you like, do you watch horror? Do you like horror films?
To an extent, yeah.
So there's a channel called there's Ending Explains and Dead Meat.
Oh, I like him.
Two of my
I watch him instead of watching the film.
Dead Meat.
Yeah.
I do that.
Just
because it's called the Kill Count.
It's the good stuff. It's the
stuff,
good part of the film.
Yeah, and because he's a horror geek, and he explains things. So he explains. So it's a step by step of the film, like most video essays are. But then he talks about how that shot was filmed, or the background behind that shot, or how the effects if they was using squibs, or if they were using VFX on it, and he gives it. So he does step by step, but also gives an insight of it, which is really good compared to other video essay people.
Yeah, and he doesn't go too high.
Yeah.
He doesn't go like, well, let's think about the implications, like the people you watch.
Yeah, Marxism and stuff.
For me, there was one that I was just like, I have absolutely no idea. Then I watched it. It was Schenectady, New York, which I don't know if you've seen that. It's oh my, I'll have to
pull up your letterbox.
I'll have to pull up my letterbox.
Yeah.
I don't think it's in my letterbox.
The true use of letterbox. I need to
Schenectady,
use
New
Letterboxd.
York, with by Charlie Kaufman with Philip Seymour Hoffman, and it's the weirdest film you'll ever see in your life. And it's one of those films, you know, when nerds go, "Oh, have you seen the fork on the side?" The fork on the side actually means something. It's so weird. It's like I didn't really like it, to be honest.
It's like English teachers going, "Oh, the door's red because the door's red."
But see, I always used to disagree with the kid that said, "Oh, the door's just red." Well,
I kind of get it now.
yeah, the door is red
Like,
for a reason. Like they're
I'm
not
like,
just gonna.
If you had to choose a colour, they chose red because it's the best colour for it.
Yeah, even subconsciously.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
have we talked about this story on the podcast about one of our films in first year? The one that your first one, Disagreement with the Paint, the colour of the walls.
I don't know.
Oh no, was it really,
was-
really arty?
I've made a lot of terrible films.
No, so basically, it's to do with paint and stuff like that. We were doing our final film of first year in this segment we were doing.
Oh yeah.
And,
I know. Remember now.
And there's a massive debate about what colour should the walls be. In this,
Yeah,
this
there was huge
space
arguments about paint
Oh
colour.
my God.
It was people
me-
fell
Oh,
out
so it
over
wasn't
it.
a film about paint.
No,
it was
no,
just
no.
a film in relation to paint.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
set
Oh,
design.
no, in
about-
relation to set dressing.
Yeah, so about
Yeah.
set dressing, and it was like. So
It
These
was,
two people
What was your argument? What did you...
I was just stoking it wasn't my film, it's someone else's film, and I was
we-
just like the sound guy on it, and I was like stoking the flame, like, no, it should be cream.
yeah.
what was the argument? Was it two really similar colours?
It
or
was
was
white
like-
or cream.
Yeah.
White
No,
or
it
cream.
wasn't.
It was.
It was.
That's
And it was
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Luke was like, but so after we agreed on it in this meeting, which people were annoyed about, Luke just put in the group chat, "Oh, I think it should be cream instead of white."
Yeah.
And he went to.
We were just really stoking the flames of this
That's
argument.
that's such a... That just shows you what people who do... Like, I do a BA as well, but like BA people just argue about anything they possibly can.
Because I think they got the best of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And come on, if it was between red and blue, then I'd be, fair enough.
White
But
and
white and cream,
cream.
I doubt that'll even show up. If you
On
painted it
cam-
cream and then you showed it to someone, they go, "That's a nice white wall," that. They wouldn't even show up.
But if they said that, the person would go, "Oh no, it's white,
cream."
It's cream."
Was there like an artistic argument to it?
No,
like,
it was just 'cause-
Well, there
I
was
like white more. Was
no,
that...
it was because it was like a hospital space room in space, like futuristic space room. Like,
That's ambitious. That for the first year. Did it turn out good?
we got first for it, didn't we?
Oh, fantastic.
yeah,
Yeah, it was still terrible though.
it was hell to film.
Yeah.
And it was basically it was first year when we basically had this. We get given a set.
Yeah, we did like this sort of like rounds, so we'd have to film a film within like a week, and then we go on to a next film, and then we'd have different roles, and we sort of like make really terrible films. But it's
That's
sort
cool.
of it was a lot of fun. But I think
Stress.
yeah, something I'd never want to do again.
Yeah.
There's lots of stuff on our course where we just sort of like get given sort of hellscapes. Like we had this documentary exercise where we had to go up to random people in the street and ask them what was in their bag.
Oh my god, I would have
hate-
loved that.
No,
You would have loved it.
I love doing stuff like that.
I'm sort of like
No.
introverted person. We were doing that, and I was like, "What's in your pocket?"
I'm just sort of a scruffy looking guy, and like I'm coming up to a random person looking quite homeless, sort of going, "What's in your bag?"
Can I have it?
Yeah.
What have you got? I got some change.
Yeah.
Any chance I can have it? Yeah.
But you know, it was.
That must have been. Oh, I need to watch that now. That sounds really good.
Well, it's actually because I'm doing documentary filmmaking.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do this for your
No, we didn't, but we actually watched a film that it was based off
Yeah.
yesterday. Not yesterday, day before.
Mm.
And it was like, "What's in your pocket?" The first one was a crack pipe.
Yeah.
No, well, genuinely.
Crack pipe.
Oh,
You know, it was all staged though. So like, the reason behind it was not the first person he saw. He was talking to people, and it's how documentaries can be set up as well. Because he goes round, and it's not like, "Oh yeah, I'll choose you. You wait there. Ask people what's in their pocket. If it's something boring, move along."
Oh,
So it's like picking and choosing. Like,
is that a documentary then?
yeah.
I don't know.
At that point, is it a documentary or is
You're
it
not
just a
getting-
film?
Yeah, because again, he goes, pick the interesting. Oh, in my pocket I've got garlic and herbs to keep away the demons.
Oh right.
Yeah, how are you
Yeah.
gonna find that person on the street?
I hate documentaries. I think they're just very depressing.
One of my top 4 films is a documentary.
What is it?
What is it?
It's so. Wait, I'll tell you this long name of it. Oh no, it's called Fighting in the Age of Loneliness. It's about. I would.
Depressing.
No, it's about MMA. It's about the rise. It's about like the rise of MMA in culture.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to it. Even if you're not into it, you need to watch. Like I don't know if you need to watch it, but it's very like Adam Curtis. He does all the. Have you not seen Adam Curtis?
I think so.
He does all these like political ones about like the rise of the political machine and stuff like that. But
I'm not really into politics.
yeah, maybe it wouldn't be our thing, but they've got it's all set round. I think it's VFX or animation or something with like an octagon.
Yeah.
And they zoom in and out with this octagon. The actual like design of it is brilliant, and it was made by like 2 guys who said we had no idea how to make any of this. We just spoke and then made it after. I think it's brilliant. But yeah, that's number 4, so it's not even that big.
So coming back to Straw Dogs, where does that rank on your list of like top 5?
Oh, it's in my top 5. It's in my top 10.
Is it in your top 10? Okay.
Definitely on my
Straw
top 10.
Dogs as well. So there was actually a 2011 remake of it.
Oh no!
And I mentioned it to you before the podcast, and it looks awful because they basically do it into the modern era, and they go instead of being in UK and Cornwall, they do it in Mississippi or somewhere like that, or Tennessee, somewhere they far back, and it's not. It loses its.
I can't think of a single horror remake that was good.
No, I can't either.
Scream was terrible.
Well, have you seen?
Oh no, not Scream. Am I thinking about Hitchcock?
Psycho.
Psycho.
Oh, it's Vince Vaughn in it. Oh my.
Shot for shot.
It's shot for shot. Well, that's what this one is.
What's the point?
They actually. I watched the thing. It's actually shot for shot.
The Straw Dogs.
Straw Dogs is shot for shot, but in America instead.
I bet the light. I remember seeing some clips and thinking the lighting's terrible.
They mentioned that with. I've seen Funny Games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the English version of that is shot for shot. I think it's German.
What is the original? Is it the original language? Is German?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I remember seeing it. It's about the 2 guys
with golf clubs. And
yeah, that's a brilliant film.
Yeah,
and then the remake, I remember reading that. I watched it on a video. The remake apparently is really just you can't do a good remake. Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake for that was terrible.
I don't know. What's it called? Suspiria. The new Suspiria is actually pretty good.
I don't know that. What's that about?
I've seen the original. I wouldn't imagine. Is it in English?
It is. It's.
Oh no, bad.
Yeah.
It is, but it's compared to other remakes.
No. Have you seen the original Suspiria?
Yeah, the Italian one.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's
you can't do that. That's a butchering. That's like trying to do 8.5 in English.
Yeah, it's like one of the best Suspiria, one of the best like.
So do you think
Italian films?
Do you think people should leave foreign remakes alone? So if they've said, so to English remakes alone, or do you think they should keep going at it? So like, do you think make people watch foreign for you? Do you think people should watch foreign films?
100% you would.
Because I know loads of people don't want to watch foreign films because it's.
I
don't go to cinema to watch subtitles.
I'm not. No, I know
loads of people like that.
For me, like the core of that was Narcos. Was that Narcos? I think is one of the best modern TV shows. But I tried to get my mum to watch it, and she said I can't bother with it because there are some people who like a lot of people watch we watch films because we're into film and we like the construction of the scene or whatever. Yeah. There are some people who just watch films and just want to fall asleep while watching a film and just want to enjoy it. Yeah. That's why people watch Marvel films, in my opinion. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think they can why don't you just watch films that haven't been remade?
Yeah.
Because these English remakes will always turn always. Yeah, I can't think of a single good one. They've all just been rude because they don't get the point.
Yeah, there probably will be one somewhere which we haven't seen yet, but
I have to think about that.
Yeah.
I don't think
But I don't because I heard
Dune's a remake.
Yeah, but that's already English though.
Oh, the 1984 one.
Yeah, I loved it because the sound, David Lynch.
Oh yeah,
David Lynch is the original one. Yeah,
the score to it is done by Toto. Absolutely, that's a fact that I found out the other day, and I absolutely love it. The guy who did Africa did the score to Dune. Yeah. That is
apparently that I got told it was
awful.
It was terrible.
It's
and David
awful.
Lynch himself in an interview said it's one of the worst films I've ever. Not only is the worst film I've ever made, it's one of the worst films I've ever seen.
Yeah,
and he made it.
It
doesn't make sense. And I've seen the scene where they've got these shields.
Yeah. So have you seen the new one yet?
I haven't seen the new one yet.
Yeah, so the shield looked really good in that one.
Good.
It's just a box. And it's like a blue box.
And it looks like two little Lego men sort of having a go at each other.
Awful.
I mean, David Lynch was asked to direct Star Wars as well.
That would have been so... I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah, but like, Joe Star Wars is based off Dune, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if he did a really crap job with Dune...
Yeah, no, that's probably why George Lucas asked him to do it.
What he says was that it was... he wanted to make it like some ridiculous runtime of like 6 hours.
Yeah. Well,
and then the studio just said, okay, you want to do that? 10,000 conditions that you've got to meet, and you've got to do it in 6 months or whatever.
Yeah.
So he just rushed to the end of it. So I get that's what happens. David Lynch, that's happened to David Lynch a fair few times, to be fair, where he's worked with big studios and they've just turned around and go, you need to do this assistant. It's been rubbish.
His TV show, not Point Valley, what is it?
Twin Peaks
works really well because he probably wanted it to be like a 6 hour long film.
Yeah.
But he actually split it up into loads of episodes, which I think in a way made it better.
Yeah, I really like Twin Peaks as well. I think that's the difference between film and TV. I feel like TV obviously because it's longer.
And now like technology's getting better. TV used to be the silver screen. In a sense.
Yeah,
or bronze screen, yeah, and now it's like the golden screen. It's like it's now catching up to it's getting the same budgets as films. It's getting the same.
Yeah.
You get less time. You have to rush it more because it has to come out episodic. But it is. I think it all started with the HBO's Game of Thrones, maybe something like that. Back in 2010, and it started getting better and better.
Yeah, and better. For putting more money in. I think Game of Thrones is when they started getting more money than films. But for me, the sort of genesis, it's still HBO. Sopranos. Sopranos is the one. Like I can't think of life.
2005 did it come out?
1998 till 2007. Jeez. I'm a big Sopranos fan.
1998, that old?
1998, yeah. And it doesn't look that old still, but it's just brilliant.
Yeah.
It's what you just sit back and you watch it and you think, every little bit of dialogue you go, oh, that's that character. It's like they're there. And then you watch the Many Saints in Newark, which is...
Is it a film or is it a TV show?
It's a film. It's the prequel story to The Sopranos, and that again, it doesn't have it as much.
It's like what's it? The what's it called? The Breaking Bad one that they did.
El Camino.
El Camino. I didn't really like that.
I didn't like.
Was that the film?
Yeah.
I couldn't watch all of it because it's bad.
Yeah.
Really? Was it that? I stopped watching Breaking Bad after like season 4 because I was like, this is a bit.
Don't tell Luke that is his favourite show.
Is that your favourite show?
No, Luke.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked Breaking Bad, but El Camino was just awful. Yeah. It depressed me so much.
Have you got a favourite show? Because my favourite show is Mindhunter. Yours is Sopranos.
Mindhunter's close to be fair. It's brilliant.
Very good, mate.
I don't know. I really like Normal People. Or something like that.
I watched it and I thought it's for a certain kind of person that there will be people that watch Normal People and really relate to it. But I watched it and I was like, it's I don't know. But I just watched it and I was like, I good acting, good writing, and some scenes that make you go, oh.
I like TV that's a bit naff. I don't really watch
Suits.
I haven't seen Suits.
Stuff like Suits, but it does really long.
Mad Men as well.
Oh, Mad Men isn't naff. Mad Men's absolutely brilliant. Do you not rate Mad Men?
Not a fan of it, no.
Oh, I like Mad Men. Yeah, it's just sort of like I like to imagine myself in a suit.
I mean, I like the main actor in it, John Hamm. I love John Hamm.
Very tasty name.
Driver.
Yeah. But on that note,
that's one
John
of the
Hamm.
2 films he's been in since or something like that. He's in nothing now. I don't know what he's doing.
On the note of John Hamm, with a very tasty name. If we often end the show with giving the rating to the film. So out of 10.
Out of 10, right?
Out of 10,
what
would you give Straw Dogs?
I'm taking the 5 and then timesing it by 2. I would give Straw Dogs an 8.
An 8?
I rate it. 8. Oh, well, I can't do. Are we doing points?
You could do points.
Probably an 8.6.
8.6.
Something
okay.
like that. Yeah.
Precisely.
Very precise.
Me, I liked it. Don't get me wrong. It's part of 6 to 6.5 for me.
Oh.
Not bad.
He hated it.
No. I found it tough to watch.
It was
very tough to watch. I think films can express it in that way, in tough to watchness, if that's even a word. but yeah, I kind of had to take a break from it.
I think I'll split the difference and give it a 7 or a 7.5.
Good.
There you go.
We all leave happy now.
Yeah.
We'll compromise.
Keeping it right in the middle. But yeah, anyway, thank you for coming on, by the way.
Brilliant to be on. Brilliant.
Very, very kind of you.
Welcome back anytime.
Thank you very much.
We love having people on. Our sort of weird film, Desert Island Discs.
We can never manage to get many people on.
Well, we don't ask, to be honest.
Anytime.
We don't try.
Anytime you've got dead air. Unless I won't do anything on Friday. No. I'll be here and I'll talk films.
All right, cool. So thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.